6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show, Conservative Cat. You can find me on YouTube, subscribe today, and also find me on Rumble. You can find me on our Facebook page as well. We've got so much to get to today. Senate Republicans, they say nope to the Right to IVF Act, which is Senator Tammy Duckworth's bill. Okay, so Senate Republicans are saying no to it. And a little bit later in the show, I will also explain Amber Thurman's death after taking this abortion pill at a North Carolina clinic. There is a lot of misinformation out there when it comes to this story. Senator Dick Durbin has been a purveyor of misinformation when it comes to this story. And I want to be the one to just shed some light on what truly happened with this woman. I think it's very important when talking about pro-life laws that we don't jump to, oh, it's pro-life laws that killed this woman, Amber Thurman. It's not. And we're going to get to it here on Conservative Cat because it's important. Next, Teamsters. They refused to release an endorsement after all of their union members picked Donald Trump in this landslide vote. They had a union vote. The members picked Donald Trump, but yet they refused to endorse him, which de facto means they're endorsing him. So we're going to get to that. Also, Kamala Harris, she is revealing her worst accent yet. Latino accent or Latinx. I don't know what they call it. Latinx community. I don't even know what that means. Latino, Latina community, and then the Latinx is like gender neutral. But I'm sure this is going to be a hit with the Hispanic community. Her new accent. This is probably her worst one yet. It like made my skin just crawl. So we're going to get to all of that here a little bit later in the show. You're going to want to stick around because Gavin Newsom, the California governor, he signed this law that essentially makes Kamala Harris's X account illegal in California. We've got CNN out there, and they are reporting now that the Kamala HQ Twitter account, the X account, is spreading misinformation. CNN is actually fact-checking Kamala Harris, which I never thought I'd see the day. The Kamala campaign has solely based its platform on lies, and it's so bad that CNN is even fact-checking them for repeatedly, quote, this is what CNN said, not me, Peter said, no. It's repeatedly deceived with misleading edits and captions. So they're repeatedly deceiving the electorate. So we're going to get to that here. Also, Gavin Newsom signing this law, which I think is going to effectively destroy Kamala Harris's X account on Twitter. Her X account. So we're going to get to all that. Pro-life groups, they're responding to Senate Republicans saying no to the right for life or the Right to IVF Act. This is a bill that Senator Tammy Duckworth has got. A lot of pro-life groups have responded, and they said that, that's a good thing that Republicans have shot down this IVF Act. And you're like, wait a second, IVF is for life. I don't understand. That's very anti-life to be against IVF. They have a good reason to be against IVF, pro-life groups, okay? I think that there should be all kinds of restrictions on IVF. I really do believe that. And I'll get to why here in a minute. I don't think it should be outright banned. I think that there is a purpose for it and a place for it in the United States. However, like everything, the leftists, they tend to misuse and abuse procedures. So we're going to get to that. But Senator Tammy Duckworth, she is out there urging Senate Republicans to vote yes on her bill. This is her bill. Duckworth, we know that she is an Illinois senator, a U.S. senator. And she said that Donald Trump is the reason why IVF is at risk, which is just insane. She had some comments. She was alongside Chuck Schumer the other day at a press conference. Let's take a listen.
Look, I doubt that Donald Trump even knows what the acronym IVF stands for. Heck, I'm not even sure half the time that he can spell IVF.
So funny, Tammy. She goes, I don't even think Donald Trump knows what IVF stands for. I don't even think he knows how to spell IVF. Oh, sick burn. Like, what are we? Are we sixth graders on the playground? I mean, like, come on. It wasn't even good, but you'll hear the chuckles from Chuck Schumer here in just a second.
But, and despite the incoherent, delusional, and frankly embarrassing ramblings that came out of his mouth last week, he is the reason that IVF is at risk in the first place. He's like a bank robber who steals cash out of the till and flees the scene. Then he expects a reward for calling the police to report that there had been a crime. So while it may now be convenient for him to claim that his support of IVF is as huge as the made-up crowd sizes at his rallies, we know the truth.
First, I mean, I just can't even start with this woman. She says the made-up crowd sizes at his rallies. Are you kidding me? Donald Trump has record-breaking crowd sizes at his rallies. And how do I know that? Video evidence. I've been to a few Donald Trump rallies. They are like nothing you will ever see in your lifetime. If you haven't been to one, get to one this year. You want to see Donald Trump at a rally. But she goes, his crowd size are fabricated. Okay.
He is to blame. He and every other Republican who cares more about staying good with Trump than about doing good for the American people that they are supposedly serving. Women in this country have been through enough. What women don't need is a man who is found liable for sexual abuse, controlling what we can or cannot do with our bodies. What we don't need are politicians who have sworn fealty to a convicted felon, treating us like we are the criminals.
All right, I'm about done with that. So, look, folks, Donald Trump, she talks about his ramblings and incoherent ramblings that he made last week. And she said, regardless of those ramblings and his incoherent speeches, he is putting IVF at risk, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The ramblings she's talking about, Donald Trump came out and said that he wants healthcare providers to provide all women with IVF treatments. I mean, I don't know what's incoherent about that. He was very clear about his policy, and he said that he is all about making more babies through IVF treatments, okay? Now, pro-lifers, they obviously have concerns with IVF because you create multiple human embryos, and there are medical professionals, and quite frankly, a lot of those people in those spaces in the medical field, I'm not saying everybody, a lot of them are lefty. And what they'll do, they'll create multiple human embryos with no intention of keeping those embryos alive. Rather, they'll discard them. Okay, these are human embryos. They're not going to become giraffes, as Illinois Family Institute David Smith said. These are human embryos, and they're going to be discarded. And I am not totally against IVF. However, there needs to be restrictions on how many embryos one female is expected to produce. You can't just be making human embryos and then discarding them or donating them to science and like Frankensteining all these embryos and using these embryos for maybe vaccines, maybe nefarious black market selling baby parts. This already happens with abortion, with the practice of abortion. Kamala Harris, she went after, of course, not the people who were selling baby parts from Planned Parenthood, but rather she went after the people who recorded the members of Planned Parenthood were selling those baby parts, which is a felony, by the way. Selling baby parts or selling human remains, that's a felony. She didn't go after them as a prosecutor. No. She went after the people who recorded and caught Planned Parenthood members doing that and selling the baby parts. So anyway, I'm not for the IVF treatments for all. Obviously, as a conservative, I believe that our taxpayer dollars shouldn't be dedicated to IVF treatments. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's going to be very costly. I'm all for life. I'm all for creating life. I'm all for babies being born. Unfortunately, there is a lot of misuse and abuse going on in the IVF medical world. And of course, it's all for money. They take a vulnerable woman and they say, hey, we're going to ask you to produce, or we're going to get 5 embryos from you. And we have no intention of, with these 5 embryos, getting a baby to be born. We're just going to wind up discarding them or using them for science. And you are going to be left childless still. And we have no intention of actually providing a child for you through this process. That's what's happening in some parts of the country. I won't say all. But Duckworth here, she implied that Trump's support for IVF is inauthentic, which is just wild to me because Trump, he's not uber conservative. He's not uber pro-life. He has been very consistent on this. This is why I don't understand. He's been very consistent on abortion. He believes in the three exceptions. It's rape, incest, life of the mother, which is a very soft, weak stance on abortion. True pro-lifers, they don't believe in those three exceptions, like hard pro-lifers, hard right pro-lifers, I guess. He's always been very clear about his position on abortion. It's been kind of soft. Pro-lifers, pro-life organizations are upset with Donald Trump saying that he won't issue a national abortion ban when he gets into office. So he's been very soft on abortion. He's been very soft on IVF. He's never said that he's against IVF. They've cooked this up. He's never said that. The only thing that he has said openly about IVF is that he would support IVF and that he would wants healthcare providers to provide IVF to women nationwide. Okay, so Senator Dick Durbin, in a social media post, I want to get to this, said that Amber Thurman, we get to this story now, died because of an extreme post-Dobbs abortion ban, and that prevented her from getting the health care that she needed, which would be a surgical abortion, okay? So Durbin, he also called out Senate Republicans blocking the bill, Tammy Duckworth's bill, and he said, IVF, not providing access to IVF for women nationwide is not pro-life. And then he said that, the situation with Thurman was not very pro-life because she winds up dead. Okay, so let's get into this story about Amber Thurman. I really want to get to this story. I've got to take a quick break. But there was an abortion pill that Amber Thurman took. This is what ultimately killed her, not pro-life laws. And what's happened to this woman is truly tragic. But to say that post-Dobbs abortion bans, such as in the state of Georgia, which is where Thurman lived, the 6-week abortion ban, which is what Georgia has, preventing her from getting a surgical abortion, that's not what killed her. Okay, that's definitely not what killed her. We're going to get to that story next on Conservative Cat. Find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in. Good morning. Good morning. Keep spreading the truth. Yes, I will always spread the truth. Help me by sharing out the content and subscribing to the YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by Patriot. This is our Christian conservative company, my Christian conservative company. It's a pre-workout. We really enjoy hearing your feedback, and people have told me that they love this. It keeps them focused at work. I work an office job, Kat, and this keeps me focused all day long. And it doesn't have outrageous amounts of caffeine where I have this huge crash. So unlike trendy powder pre-workouts, you've got a pre-workout that doesn't have all these added fillers or food colorings or extreme amounts of caffeine. This is actually something, it's a premium pre-workout. So it's expensive, but totally worth it. All right. When we come back, I'm going to explain Amber Thurman. We're also going to discuss Gavin Newsom. This is a really great one because Gavin Newsom, he just recently signed a law that's effectively going to get rid of the Kamala HQ's X Twitter account. Okay, so this California senator, former California senator and presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, she is no longer going to be able to deceive the electorate. And this is CNN reporting on this account. She has had multiple viral disinformation posts and deceptive editing used to mislead the public about the elections. That's not me saying that. That's CNN. Of course, Gavin Newsom, he hates the First Amendment. And look, I know deceptive content kind of sucks, but at some point, our legislators have got to butt their nose out. And look, there's things like parody, there's things like comedy that we should be able to engage in as an electorate during political season. And when you have people like Governor Gavin Newsom signing laws effectively banning that sort of behavior, you're going to chill free speech. You're going to make life very boring, not to mention parodies, comedies, memes. It's all very funny. And now you've made the nation funnyless. You've made it boring and sad, and it's quite unfortunate because this was a hilarious video. It mocked Kamala Harris, but there's tons of videos out there mocking Donald Trump. It's not exclusive to one side. The parodies, but this has been going on for years, and we've never had legislators saying, oh, we have to control it. We have to control speech. I'm kind of a free speech absolutist in this. A lot of conservatives and Republicans would disagree with me when I say that we shouldn't ban misinformation, deep fakes. We shouldn't ban those things. I really don't think we should. I think that it's up to the consumer to educate themselves. Perhaps we should invest in, if we're going to invest in anything, educational classes in school to become savvy media consumers. You should be able to tell right away if it's a deep fake, right? Perhaps we should caveat or have content marked as. A lot of these platforms already do that without a law, right? So Elon is pretty good about marking things. This has been generated by AI. You see that on Facebook a lot of times. This post is generated by AI. We have to get better about that, investing in the infrastructure to disclose that kind of stuff. Hey, this is a parody, marking your content as parody or marking it as a, deep fake, marking it as like something that's been generated by artificial intelligence. I think that's the direction we should go. And then also maybe investing in educational classes for media consumers, in high school. I mean, we live in a digitized world. It makes sense that we provide a truly nonpartisan class that discusses deceptive media practices. And I think that we should go that direction rather than outright banning so-called deceptive practices, because it's very subjective what a deceptive practice is and who gets to define deceptive practice, right? So Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law that's effectively going to make her Twitter account obsolete. It's going to make it illegal. And like I said, in a sane society, Kamala, she would be disqualified for not only attacking your freedoms, but also just outright lying. In a sane society, she wouldn't be a serious candidate. I don't want to say like officially disqualified, but the people would unofficially disqualify her by not even participating in polling. It would be so painfully obvious that she is not in the running. But I'm right back. Let's discuss Amber Thurman. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We provide you local content. We provide you national content, state content. Basically, we are your election headquarters. I'm going to keep you informed up to the election. So be sure to find us on the web, cities929.com. You can also find me on Rumble and on YouTube. Just type it into your search bar, Conservative Cat Show on YouTube. And then on Rumble, you can type Cities 92.9. Cities 92.9. All right. So before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Amber Thurman. This is a very important story because I've already seen all kinds of misinformation about this story out there. Dick Durbin, in a social media post, he is the one. He's the one pushing out this misinformation. So he said that Amber Thurman died, quote, because of an extreme post-obs abortion ban, preventing her from getting the health care she needed. That is a direct quote from his social media account. Dick Durbin has been a United States Senator for Illinois for as long as I have probably been alive. Guy needs to go. He needs to go, but I don't know. He's going to be one of those guys, I think, that dies in office. He's going to be, in a wheelchair, casting votes that destroy the state until he goes. But he's been there for a long, long time. Anyway, so Amber Thurman, what ultimately killed her, I believe, is the abortion pill. Why do you say that? Well, here's the story, and here's how it goes. Reports detail how a North Carolina clinic, where Amber Thurman, had driven to from Georgia to receive a surgical abortion, gave Thurman abortion pills instead of a surgical abortion like she had made an appointment for, because she arrived late to her appointment. Okay, so Amber Thurman, she got pregnant with a couple of babies, twins. Okay, and she, according to her best friend, in her post death, right, her best friend relayed all of this information to the New York Times. Her best friend said that Thurman wanted an abortion because she had found some stability in her life. She was going to nursing school and she had just gotten herself an apartment, so she could not carry the twins to term because she didn't want to screw up her stability in life. Okay. Me as a pro-lifer, I definitely disagree with that. Children are not, they are not, they don't cause instability in your life. I mean, they are gifts from God, and I don't know who in their right mind would just say nope to children just because you selfishly want to pursue a career or the money. I don't know, but let's put that aside for now. So she made an appointment, okay, in Georgia. This was a 4-hour drive. Okay, 4 hours. It's not too long of a drive. It's not too short of a drive. It's a bit of an inconvenience. It is a day trip, but it's not like you can't do it, right? So you just call off work one day, right? And you go get your abortion. So she was driving 4 hours from Georgia to North Carolina. She arrived late. Apparently she hit some traffic. Okay, it's Atlanta, Georgia. You're going probably into Charlotte, North Carolina. There's going to be some traffic. These are very populated, dense areas. I would imagine you would have to account for traffic and leave super early to make sure you get to your appointment on time. So she got to her appointment, and once she was there, the North Carolina clinic the people working there, said, "Oh, you're late for your appointment. We cannot perform the surgical abortion. Instead, here's some abortion pills." Thurman, she took them, and she took them back to Georgia and then took them there. So many wrong. Obviously, there was a series of bad choices here made by this woman, and it's tragic. It's not that I don't have sympathy for her. However, there was a series of bad choices. Number one, having unprotected sex. Knowing that you are in a position, nursing school, new apartment, can't afford it, you decided to have unprotected sex and you wound up pregnant. It's almost like that's what happens. So that was bad decision number one. Number two, arriving late to your abortion appointment. Number three, deciding to take the abortion pills from the North Carolina clinic and not staying in North Carolina where you receive free follow-ups, right? So if she were to have stayed in a hotel for a few days in North Carolina and take those abortion pills there, she would have had access to that North Carolina clinic for free follow-ups after taking these abortion pills. Unfortunately, she suffered bleeding, she suffered an infection, and ultimately died in a Georgia hospital. So after she took these abortion pills, she started bleeding. She got a really bad infection. She ultimately passed out. After passing out, she was taken to the Georgia hospital where she was at. And the doctors allegedly, according to the New York Times report, waited 20 hours to perform a D&C. So this is where they clean out, I guess, the uterus. When she arrived at the hospital, they allegedly waited 20 hours to perform this D&C. Currently, there are no laws preventing healthcare officials or healthcare providers. There is no laws on the books in the United States that prevent them from doing their job and providing care and looking after the welfare of both the mother and child. There are no laws on the books that would have prevented these medical professionals from working on this woman and providing a D&C, where they clean out the uterus. Okay, the pro-abortion folks, they're saying, oh, they wouldn't perform the D&C because of the 6-week abortion ban, and they don't know how to interpret the law, the 6-week abortion ban that Georgia had enacted. Look, folks, medical professionals, they swear to protect their patients and to provide healthcare and look after the welfare of their patients. Okay, it's the Hippocratic Oath. There's also a provision in the law that says that the health and the welfare of the mother and of the child should be protected, and you should look out for the health and welfare of mother and baby. And like, that's no different than what it was previously before the 6-week abortion ban. Okay. She just can't get a surgical abortion in Georgia. That's all that means. A scheduled surgical abortion, an elective abortion. That's all that means. That 6-week ban. So, like I said, there has been a lot of misinformation about this story. Clearly, this woman made a lot of bad choices. It's sad. It's tragic, really. And I think there is also a question of if these abortion pills are even safe. It led to her bleeding out. It led to her getting sepsis or like some sort of infection, I guess. So that calls into question really the safety and the efficacy of these abortion pills. I think it's the abortion pill that ultimately killed her. But like I said, the series of bad choices probably killed her. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, Teamsters, they have endorsed endorsed a candidate in every presidential election since 1996. In 2020, the Teamsters Union, they obviously endorsed Biden. This year, there will be no endorsement because even though the members casted a vote and it was a landslide vote in favor of Trump, they won't be issuing an endorsement for Donald Trump. So I will be right back with that next. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about how this woman from Georgia, she went to North Carolina, tried to get a surgical abortion. They gave her abortion pills. Tragically, this woman started bleeding. Yeah, she got an infection and later died in a Georgia hospital. You got Senator Dick Durbin out there saying, oh, it's because of extreme post-op abortion bans like Georgia has. Georgia has a 6-week ban. There was a series of bad decisions obviously made by this young woman and by the North Carolina clinic as well. They decided to give her abortion pills instead of a surgical abortion. And those abortion pills ultimately caused that bleeding. She wasn't bleeding for no reason. She took the abortion pills, and there you go. It's truly tragic story. And look, medical professionals, if they're choosing to ignore the life of a mother because of this 6-week abortion ban that's been enacted in Georgia, that's on them. That's not on the pro-life policy. If they're interpreting it that way, they're dumb because there's provision in there. And you swear a Hippocratic oath. You should be always trying to save lives, not actively letting people die because of laws on the books. Okay, there's a reason why medical professionals swear a Hippocratic oath. All right. I also wanted to tell you about Teamsters this morning. Teamsters, they are refusing to endorse President Donald Trump despite a landslide vote where we saw the union members vote for Donald Trump. So it was 59.6% of the vote went to Donald Trump, with 34% of the vote going to Miss Harris. And the union heads, this is what I say all the time, the union heads, I'm not anti-union. I'm anti-leadership within the union who decides to take your union dues and donate them all to Democrat candidates, and they don't listen to you. This is it's bureaucracy at this point. They've gone a long way. It's so hard for me to comprehend that at one time, unions, they fought against things like child labor, okay? And now they fight for things like pet maternity, right? Or where you get to take an extended leave because you get a new pet. Okay, we've come a long way from what unions were intended to do. But let's take a listen to this guy here talking about the non-endorsement of Donald Trump, which is effectively like an endorsement of Donald Trump. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
Whatever the critics out there, and they're very few in the leadership, whenever I get an opportunity to highlight the American worker, especially the Teamster worker, I'm going to take any and all venue. We asked both conventions respectively at the same time, and the Republican National Convention immediately responded to us, didn't try and edit any of our messages, and I was hopeful that the Democrats would do the same, but they didn't. I'm not upset about it, but I can tell you this, my rank and file members who have been lifelong Democrats are not happy about it.
Yeah, I know there were some members of the union who spoke, but that's not the same as having the leader of the organization speak. Very quickly, did you choose to speak at the Republican convention, which is a pretty unusual move for a union leader, because you feel that Trump has been more pro-labor than past Republican nominees?
No, not at all. I spoke there because it was the ability to highlight how important we are. It was the ability to call out the people, the corporate elitists, who forget who built this country, the American workers. You know, people like to, have their own opinions on why we were there, but I was there to talk about the American workers. It wasn't an endorsement for any and all Republicans. It was strictly a message about how important and how valuable we are, and to let the people know that fight us every day, that we're not going away.
Okay, so the International Brotherhood of Teamsters will not issue an endorsement in this presidential election for the first time since 1996. Okay, who you heard there was Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien, and he said neither major political candidate or presidential candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business. Well, Sean O'Brien, the membership votes seem to disagree on that one. Obviously, the union membership thinks they think that Donald Trump would be better So he goes on, he says, we saw commitments from both Trump and Harris not to interfere in critical union campaigns or core Teamsters industries and to honor our members' right to strike. But we were unable to secure those pledges. So the Teamsters, they endorsed, of course, we know Joe Biden during the 2020 election, and they have consistently supported Democratic presidential nominees in recent election cycles. So there have been several instances where the union has endorsed Republican candidates. Just in recent years, they've endorsed Democrats. They endorsed Nixon. They also endorsed Reagan. However, they are refusing to officially endorse Trump, even though that's what the membership wants. That's the news here, is that the membership wants this. And the leaders are saying, no. Sorry, members, we're not going to be representing your will, the will of its members. The union leaders are not following through with that promise to their members that they will represent them. So Trump received nearly 60% of the vote, like I said, while Biden received 44% back in 2020. And then they decided to ignore the union members again in 2024, where it was pretty much the same thing. She got 34% of the vote. He got 59% of the vote. Trump did. So many of these members are lifelong Democrats. This tells you how bad things are on the left. Okay, you've got lifelong Democrats who vote blue no matter who it is, and they're not voting blue. They're voting Donald Trump. So the real scandal here is that, not that Kamala lost, but the head of the union is slapping the members in the face because they voted for Trump and they're not listening. They're not representing the union members. So while many of them refused to cast their union vote for the candidate that was undemocratically selected, they did not want to cast their vote for the Democrat because she was undemocratically selected. I guarantee that the union saw that they were overriding the democratic process and installing Kamala Harris. It shouldn't be surprising that you've got the union leadership also participating in an undemocratic election in one of the most undemocratic elections in American history. They're also subverting the democratic process by not listening to their union members. Okay, it's kind of weird, and it's like a weird coincidence, I guess, where at this level, at the union level, there is an undemocratic process going on, and at the national level, there is an undemocratic process going on. So none of it really matters, because them coming out and saying they're not endorsing Trump despite the members wanting Trump, that's kind of an endorsement in and of itself. So, I mean, it's as simple as that. Nice try, union leadership. But I mean, essentially the union, being that the members overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump, has endorsed Donald Trump. Maybe not officially. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but we are going to talk about Kamala Harris being a chameleon. She has a new accent. It's a Latino accent. Latina accent? Latinx accent. Sorry, I have to be gender neutral. We're going to be taking a listen to that here next on Conservative Cat. I know, I'm kind of shocked about that too, but it's all like a public kind of information. We do have what happened to Joe Biden in 2020. He won with 44% of the vote, and Donald Trump won with 60% of the vote. Yeah, or 60% of the vote or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not shocking so much, because I think it's, it's publicly available information. Anybody can find it. The fact that they admitted it on TV, yes, that's pretty shocking. On CBS Face the Nation, she pulled up the graphics there. The reporter, the Chiron, it said, Kamala Harris, she got 34% of the vote, whereas Donald Trump got 59% of the vote. So there you have it. And yes, Jennifer, 100% sounds just like what's happening with the primaries with Kamala Harris. Yes, why is there so many undemocratic processes happening in this country? You can look at it at a local level or at a union level, or It's just really what it is. It's the top caste or the top class and the bottom class. You have the union leadership, and they say, hey, we don't want to endorse Donald Trump despite you telling us that you want Donald Trump. It's the same thing when you translate it over to the presidential election. We overwhelmingly voted for Joe Biden during the primaries. What was it, 14 million votes this guy got? We want Joe Biden as our candidate in the primaries. We didn't vote for anybody else. We voted for Joe Biden. Then they removed Joe Biden from the ballot with this de facto coup where Hillary Clinton was involved, but she acted so surprised yesterday when I played that clip. You could hear it in her voice. She said, she's just outright lying, but she acted so surprised. She was like, the media needs to consistently cover Trump as a dictator. La, la, la. And she goes, I wish they would, with the same gusto, cover Trump as a dictator as they did with Joe Biden and how poorly he did in the debate against Donald Trump. They, went after Joe Biden for that, but they won't go after won't go after Donald Trump as a dictator, which is so many things wrong. There are so many things to unpack with Hillary Clinton's statement. But to act like it was so shocking that the media went after Joe Biden after that debate is hilarious, because we know Hillary Clinton, the top Democrats, all of them wanted Joe Biden out of there. They didn't think Joe Biden could win. He was 10 steps behind Donald Trump in this race. And instead of, letting the race finish on the last lap, they decided to sub out Joe Biden for Kamala Harris, which is cheating. That's cheating. Okay, if I'm running a marathon and on the last mile, you take the guy that's coming in second and you replace him with somebody, I mean, that's cheating. Okay, that's what it is. It's cheating. So Kamala Harris, the union, all of it, their leadership, the top Democrats, they want to select who they want in the presidency. They don't listen to the will of the people. There's something in common there. So when we come back, we're going to talk about Kamala Harris's new accent. That's next on Conservative Cat. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. JD Vance calling Kamala Harris a chameleon. He recently did that. And she changes her tone, folks, depending on what kind of audience she is in front of. And she just wants to tell people what they want to hear. Okay, because she wants to get elected and she is selfish in this race. It's all about her. She wants to be likable and it's not about the people. And this is why she does this code switching. Okay, so it's a tactic and it's not new in politics, but not many people have done this. Okay, it's not new, but not many people do this, where they switch, and it's called code switching, their accents depending on the ethnicity of the people she's speaking to. Okay, so it's unclear how many fake accents she's got right now, but this has got to be the worst one yet. Take a listen. This ought to be a good one for the Latina community, Latinx community. Here we go.
I love you back. I love you back.
Gosh, that's really bad. That is really, really bad. I love you back. So she does another accent here, and I think it's one of the worst ones she's done yet. The accent, it's kind of comical. She speaks to people like they're as immature as her. Not even children really act like this. She's acting like she's a drunk toddler. She goes, I love you back. And she like uses this fake accent. So this is like the second fake accent that she's used. According to the New York Post, Kamala Harris, she used a fake accent during the address at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation on Saturday night. Harris seemingly briefly altered the tone of her voice at the start of her remarks during this Washington, D.C. gala where President Joe Biden was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. This was at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation gala. So she also had a fake accent at that event. And she says, hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters. You know, she uses this like black accent, I guess. I don't know. It's just disturbing. It's disturbing. This woman is obviously insecure. And somebody this insecure to where she's trying to be likable and get people to like her like this, she can't run the country, right? All right, I got to take a quick break. But at the top of the hour, we'll finish up this story along with a few others. I've got for you Gavin Newsom banning deceptive practices in his state. That's next. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every single day. Coming up, we do have a lot to get to. Governor Gavin Newsom, he signed a law in his state that would effectively make Kamala Harris's X account, her Twitter account, illegal. Yes, I don't think he meant to do that, but CNN is now reporting that she engages in deceptive content, misleading content on her Kamala Harris HQ X account. So we're going to chat about that. When we come back, I want to talk about Harris. She alters her tone of voice at the start of her remarks here at this gala where President Joe Biden was honored for a Lifetime Achievement Award. She obviously slips into a Black accent. She reverted back to her traditional manner of speaking for most of the speech at this Phoenix Awards dinner, where she was wearing this fancy dress. She's not like you, okay? She's not middle class. I've gone through and debunked how that statement is just outright false. She's not middle class. She's pretty wealthy. I'm not going to say uber rich. Growing up, she wasn't uber rich, but she was definitely wealthy. Her parents were wealthy. She came from wealth. She lived in one of the wealthiest suburbs in Canada. So she's not middle class. And what makes me so upset is that she is insecure, and this is obvious that that's why she's doing this. She's just insecure, and she thinks that this is going to get more people to like her. Yeah, welcome to the Red Kingdom. That is Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We were talking about Kamala Harris. She lifted her eyebrows and she shifted her accent once again. It was this Latino accent, and she goes, I love you back, where she tries to act like she's Latina. This is her second accent within the last week. New York Post, they report. They say at this gala where President Joe Biden was honored for a Lifetime Achievement Award, and they were all in their fancy, gowns and tuxes, and these people aren't like you. Kamala Harris is not middle class. She did not grow up middle class. I've debunked that several times on this show. People are like, oh, she grew up middle class. No, she didn't. Conservatively, maybe upper middle class, but wealthy. Her parents were definitely wealthy. Her father was definitely rich out the wazoo. I don't know how much he contributed to the household. There was a hefty divorce settlement given to the mother prior to moving to Canada, one of the wealthiest suburbs in Canada, by the way. She is not middle class. She's not middle class. She's nowhere near it. What bothers me is she's so insecure. She code switches. She changes accents to try to get people to like her. Here's another example. This is her at the gala. Take a look.
And let me just say about Joe Biden. I have.
Very cringy.
Hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters, and my sorors, and to all my HBCU brothers and sisters.
It's just so cringy. She's such a chameleon. So she goes, hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters. She said this while laughing. This is in reference to the major fraternities and sororities at historically Black colleges and universities. She was at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. It was like some sort of gala that they were at. And like I said, for most of that speech, she slipped back into her traditional manner of speaking. With like a few exceptions where she got more animated. She's trying to, I don't know if it's a nervous thing. I don't know if, the media will defend her. So I don't know why she's nervous up there. If it's a nervous thing, I mean, they'll defend her no matter how foolish she is. Also, did you know Kamala Harris buys alcohol under an alias? That's kind of weird. I don't know I don't know too many sober people that would buy alcohol under an alias, under a fake name, but she does. She's a member at this wine club, and she buys alcohol, buys her wine under a fake name, which is peculiar. But she does this because, and I think it's because she's just so insecure, and she's someone who wants to be the most powerful person in the world, and she's so desperate for a crowd to like her. See, she code switches. She does this fake accent to get people to like her. And I'm sorry, but I don't think somebody who is that insecure, that self-conscious, that needing people to like her, I don't think that she's going to lead the free world into prosperity. I'm sorry. She desperately wants people to accept her. And look, I'm patiently waiting for her next accent. She's has two of them, her Latina accent, and then she also has this like black urban accent, I guess. I'm waiting for her Middle Eastern accent. Maybe she'll use it when she negotiates with Hamas, and maybe Hamas will start to like her if she uses their accent, her Middle Eastern accent, while she's president. I don't know. So I'm patiently waiting for the Middle Eastern accent. All right, I do want to get to a few things at the top of this hour. RFK Jr., he identifies an issue that all Americans should look at and should disqualify Kamala Harris over. Okay, Americans should be looking at this issue, the sole issue, and that alone should disqualify Kamala Harris from even being an option this election cycle. So Gavin Newsom, he also signs a law making Kamala Harris's X account effectively obsolete, illegal in California, which is kind of funny. I don't think he meant to do that, but yes, Kamala Harris's X account is probably going to be illegal in California. Also, the New York Times, the union members, and like I said at the beginning of the show with the Teamsters, they're not endorsing Trump despite the union members overwhelmingly voting for Donald Trump in their union vote. They aren't endorsing him. Unions are so far gone. We've gone from, them fighting against child labor and making sure children don't work, to union members demanding sick leave, unlimited sick leave, which is what the New York Times union members are threatening to strike over. They want unlimited sick leave. They also want pet like maternity leave. So every time you get a new pet, you get like time off. They're threatening to strike the New York Times before Election Day. So the demands are insane. The union members, they are demanding some really wacky things. So we're going to get to all of that here on Conservative Cat. Don't miss a single second of the show. If you do, you can always go back and find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble. All right. In a serious society, people like Tim Walz and Kamala Harris would be banned from running for office solely because they don't believe in free speech. These people have come out outright with their mouths and have said that they don't think free speech is a good thing. Okay, they want to ban misinformation, disinformation, and that's all very subjective. They want to invoke hate speech laws, which is just annoying because there's no such thing as hate speech, because there's things that are perfectly acceptable to hate. Like, for example, Hitler. It's totally fine to hate Hitler. Are you going in enforcing hate speech laws? Who decides what is appropriate or inappropriate to hate? We don't live in a serious country, so people aren't batting an eye when you have two candidates no one voted for, by the way. That was a very undemocratic process. They've been installed. They're probably going to be the most powerful duo in the world. I do believe Donald Trump will win. My prediction is that Donald Trump will win, but they don't want him in office, and there's going to be this whole uprising. It's going to be similar to that of what happened in Venezuela with Maduro. I think that's the country. So yes, I think that's what's going to happen. Exit polling is going to show that Donald Trump won overwhelmingly. You're going to have the Harris-Walz team come out and say that they won right away. You're going to have media. The media is going to try to steal this election for them on their behalf. They're already They're already doing that. So they are going to become possibly the most powerful duo in the world, and they're going to police your thoughts. Okay, they believe in policing your thoughts. RFK Jr. has been very vocal about the Democratic Party and about how he thinks that they're anything but democratic. Okay, there is no democracy in the Democratic Party anymore. So I want to play this clip. This is RFK Jr. talking about this. He's on a TPUSA platform. He's at a TPUSA action event. Let's take a listen to RFK Jr. Here we go.
I don't feel at home with people who believe in censorship. I think it's disqualifying. It's antithetical and inconsistent with democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Hillary Clinton yesterday making this extraordinary statement that endorsing this censorship of speech in our country. We have Kamala Harris saying that free speech is a privilege. It's not a right. And Tim Walz saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is disqualifying for anybody who wants to be president of the United States to believe in censorship.
There you go.
I don't feel at home.
Yes. So when citizens start to fear their government for being politically incorrect, okay, I personally have a fear. I mean, somebody asked me the question, if you were to be arrested, what would you be arrested for? And right away I said, I'd be arrested for saying politically incorrect things. When citizens start to fear their government for being politically incorrect, that's a clear sign things have gotten out of hand. And the problem with with invoking hate speech laws is that, like I said, hate is subjective. You cannot police people's feelings. There's morally permissible things to hate. There's a lot of things that are morally permissible to hate. I hate pedophiles, right? That's morally permissible to hate that. Are you going to police my feelings? You can't. America is, and it used to be, the leader of the free world. And now we have a de facto president who could care less about the Constitution. We now have a de facto president. That's Kamala Harris. Joe Biden's not running anything. I mean, he has become so irrelevant. It's sad. These people don't think you should decide who the nominee is. 14 million people voted for Joe Biden, and then they booted him off the ballot. They tried to take Trump off the ballot. Now they're taking third-party candidates off the ballot that will aid Kamala Harris in the election. If taking RFK off the ballot it will help Kamala Harris, then they'll do it. If leaving RFK on the ballot, say in Wisconsin, a judge just ruled to leave RFK Jr. on the ballot in that state. It's a swing state. RFK Jr. has said he does not want to be on the Wisconsin ballot, but they're keeping him on there because it's going to help Kamala Harris. At least that's what the judge believes, probably. So these people couldn't get any more undemocratic if they tried. If a candidate they don't support is taken off the ballot, what's the point? If every candidate that they don't support, so like Donald Trump, they tried to take him off in Colorado. I think in New York, they tried to take him off. In Illinois, they tried to take him off. If every candidate they don't like is taken off of the ballot, what is the point of having elections? Really? I mean, at this rate, if you just take people you don't like off of the ballot, what's the point in having these things that we call election? There is no point if you just take off certain people off the ballot that you want or leave certain people on that you're not worried about. The Kamala Harris campaign has based its platform on lies. And it's gotten so bad, like I said, CNN is out there fact-checking Kamala Harris's X account. This is a huge story. They fact-checked them for, quote, repeatedly deceiving and misleading edits and captions on their Kamala HQ X account. Okay, so CNN, this is per CNN, in an August 17th post from Kamala HQ, it strongly suggested that Donald Trump had gotten confused about what state he was in during an event in Pennsylvania. Okay, so the post said, quote, Trump, would that be okay, North Carolina? He's in Pennsylvania, unquote. So this is what the post said. They strongly suggested that Trump was confused about what state he was in during this event, this rally. Okay, so it included a 6-second video clip with Trump saying, while pointing to his left, would that be okay, North Carolina? I don't think so, right? So this was a 6-second clip, and he's in Pennsylvania, and he says, would that be okay, North Carolina? So the Harris campaign was explicit about its intentions in the version of the post it made on Instagram. saying that Donald Trump is lost and confused. Okay, so the Instagram post, Kamala HQ account, they said Donald Trump is lost and confused. He thinks he's in North Carolina, where he's actually in Pennsylvania. However, Trump was not confused. He was not lost. When you look at the full video of that speech at that rally in Pennsylvania, he pointed to his left and he acknowledged a group of supporters from North Carolina at his rallies. He does this all the time. If you were to attend a Trump rally, you would know this. There's groups of supporters that tend to migrate together, where you have Illinois supporters at a Pennsylvania rally, where you have North Carolina, because people travel all over the country to go see Donald Trump speak at his rallies. He was pointing to a very subset group of supporters at this rally, and he says, "Thank you very much, North Carolina." And, he'll say at the beginning of his rallies, who's from, or like he'll have a slate of speakers before him, and then they will gauge and see how many people are from where in the rallies. They do this probably for campaign tactics and to try to figure out how many Pennsylvanians are actually there, or if it's just a bunch of North Carolina people. So they'll say, how many people are from North Carolina? Do I have any Illinois people? Do I have any Pennsylvania people? And they'll say that, and then everybody woos and waves their hand. So this is obviously misleading. They are the biggest offenders of misinformation. Kamala Harris is a huge offender of misinformation. Clearly, she's explicitly trying to make it look like Donald Trump didn't know where he was at. Okay, but he was clearly referring to a group of North Carolina supporters that were at a Pennsylvania rally. It's pretty comical that these people want to monitor misinformation because they're the biggest offenders of it. That's because progressivism and projection go hand in hand. Every time these people point a finger at you, there are four more pointing right back at them. And in a sane society, RFK Jr. is totally right. Kamala would be disqualified for attacking your freedoms, but we don't live in a sane country, and she's might become the most powerful person in the world. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Like I said, it's pretty comical that these people are claiming they want to monitor misinformation when they're the biggest offenders of pushing out misinformation. I just revealed via the CNN reports that Kamala Harris, her HQ account on X, on Instagram, they have been deceiving the electorate, actually. They have tried to sway this election, cheat in this election by telling people that Donald Trump was lost and confused at a Pennsylvania rally and called the Pennsylvanians North Carolinians. Not true. He referred to a very small group of supporters at the Pennsylvania rally who were from North Carolina. And if you were to watch the whole clip, you would have known that. But they intentionally and explicitly tried to make Donald Trump look lost and confused because they are trying to cheat in this election. So I think it's pretty comical. You know, now we've got Gavin Newsom, the California governor, right? He made a law that I think is effectively going to dismantle, destroy Kamala Harris's ex-Twitter account and make it illegal in the state of California. I don't think he realizes what he said here. Okay, so I'm sure there's probably a carve out for misinformation that he agrees with in this law, but you know, whatever misinformation he agrees with or is politically advantageous to him and his party, he's probably got a carve out in the law that makes Kamala Harris's tweets and X's acceptable. So let's go back to July. This was a hilarious video mocking Kamala Harris. Her installation as a candidate. Reminder, Joe Biden got 14 million votes. They booted him off the ballot. Hillary Clinton and top Democrats did not want him to finish out the race because they knew he'd lose because he was 10 steps behind Donald Trump on the last lap. They decided to install a new runner. Like I've said, I've given this analogy. You're running a marathon. On the last mile, the guy coming in second, they swap out another runner for this guy, and that's cheating. Anyway, so there was a video, and they decided to, and this was a parody, okay? And the word parody is important here, okay? There was very clearly marked that this was a parody video. Everybody who shared this video out did the right thing. See, if you leave people alone and if you leave government out of it, people tend to do the right thing sometimes. Now, I do think that moving forward with deceptive practices, with deep fakes, with all of that, regulating it is not something I think we should move forward with, but rather saying, hey, this stuff has to be marked as parody. This stuff has to be marked as generated by AI. But the definition of parody is, quote, a work in which the style of an author or work is closely imitated for comic effect or in ridicule. Okay, so this is parody and it should exist. We shouldn't ban things like this. This is funny. The world would be pretty boring without parody. So let's take a listen. This is a hilarious clip. Kamala Harris, it was shortly after she was installed as a candidate after the media couldn't hide Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline. Let's take a listen.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility of debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time. Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and In my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be, unburdened by what has been.
Okay, so this is obviously parody. It's funny. It's hilarious. Okay, so Newsom got angry about this video, clearly. And when he gets angry, he passes laws that strip Americans of their rights. Americans have a right to create parody. Okay, the world would be boring without comedy. And in his own words, in this law, he says about this law, in his own words, he states, you can no longer knowingly distribute an ad or other election communications that contain deceptive content in the state of California. Okay, so with this law, the First Amendment is first for a reason. Governor Gavin Newsom, he hates the First Amendment, much like Governor J.B. Pritzker. But shockingly, they tried to pass something like this in Illinois and it didn't get through. They were trying to whip votes for it. There was no bill. They passed an omnibus election bill in the Illinois legislature, but they didn't include this deceptive practices, deceptive content in that omnibus election bill. It was actually carved out for some odd reason. But like I said, in his own words, Governor Gavin Newsom, he says, you can no longer knowingly distribute an ad or other election communications that contain materially deceptive content in the state of California. Okay, that's what he said. You can no longer share deceptive content in election cycle. So this means the California senator and installed presidential candidate Kamala Harris's campaign, their ex-Twitter account is now illegal effectively in the state of California. I don't make the rules. He made the rules, and hopefully the rule also applies to Kamala Harris, I would think, right? So in CNN, in a report, here it is, Kamala Harris's HQ's viral disinformation posts and deceptive editing used to mislead the public about elections. This is what CNN is reporting, okay? I told you about how, and there is a list of 8 different instances from this Kamala HQ account where she was deceiving the public. For example, one example would be the Pennsylvania rally where Donald Trump referred to some North Carolina supporters at the Pennsylvania rally as North Carolina. And they tried to make it sound like, oh, Donald Trump is lost, confused. He has no idea he's in Pennsylvania. He just called a bunch of Pennsylvanians North Carolinians. That's not true. Okay. The dictionary defines slippery slope as, quote, a course of action that seems to lead inevitably from one action or result to another with unintended consequences. So a slippery slope there, Gavin Newsom. You passed this law. Now it's going to apply to your darling California Senator Kamala Harris. Yeah, this law is going to come back to bite you in the butt because they are the biggest purveyors of disinformation, misinformation. I've got to take a quick break, but you were listening to Conservative Cat. I'll be right back. yes, that break felt so long. I missed you so much. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. So do appreciate you tuning in. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, find me on Facebook, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a whole lot. Now, I do want to talk about New York Times union members, and I've been talking about this throughout the show today because Teamsters, they said, oh, we're not endorsing Donald Trump, despite our union members overwhelmingly voting for Donald Trump in a vote. It was like 59 to 34, 59% of the vote went to Donald Trump. And they said, we're not going to be endorsing either candidate. And Donald Trump was asked about this, and Donald Trump says, that's huge. That's great. They're not endorsing a Democrat, which is a big deal. So I want to talk about New York Times. They're going on strike, apparently. If an employee is so fragile that they need mandatory trigger warnings, that's a clear sign that this person is pathetic and can't function on their own. Okay. The tech industry is probably one of the most woke industries of all time, but it's always nice to see the left go after their own. Because progressivism, it's never enough for these people. They always need to move the goalpost. Okay, they need to keep moving that goalpost. So the New York Times Tech Guild represents 600 software engineers who apparently cannot seem to function like a normal person. As I said, they want mandatory trigger warnings. It's unclear really what that means. Despite these people are paid pretty much probably some of the highest salaries in the country, $190,000. Subsequently, the union is threatening to strike on election day, and they want their foolish demands met. I'm going to get into their foolish demands here on Conservative Cat. Now, according to the Post Millennial, tech union workers at the New York Times have threatened to strike on election day due to stalled contract negotiations. Union workers have made a number of unusual requests. And here's where it gets weird. They say they want mandatory trigger warnings. They want a 4-day work week, unlimited sick time. They also want job security for non-citizens, and they want pet bereavement time. So this is where, you know, you get a new pet and you get some time off to stay with your pet at home. Weird. So workers, unlimited sick time, what does that mean? And unlimited sick leave? Can someone actually take like an entire year off? Does unlimited mean unlimited? So like you just take an entire year and you say, oh, I'm using my sick days, my unlimited sick days. Like this is outrageous. These claims are, or these demands are absurd. They're unusual. I also get the whole pets are part of your family thing. I do. I love my pets, but this pet bereavement thing is weird. Demanding mandatory time to spend with your pet it's bizarre. And I wouldn't be shocked if these people start demanding from the union or from the company, the New York Times union members, they want pets for their emotions, right? Emotional support animals. Hey, you have to give everybody an emotional support animal. They're probably not too far from caving to those demands or creating those demands. The union is probably not too far from that. So the Times Tech Guild, which represents 600 software engineers, like I said, and other non-editorial tech workers at the paper, authorized a strike last week. The union views the strike as a critical move as it would occur at the busiest, most crucial time of the year for the media, which is the election. It would result in work stoppage on election day. Okay, so they're looking to strike during, which that'd be nice if they striked. I could care less. This is mainstream media. And, you know, it'd be pretty awesome if they did actually go through with this strike. However, I do think that these outrageous demands will be met. I do. The 4-day work week, unlimited sick time, and pet bereavement. Weird. So over the past 2 years, the tech union has struggled to reach contract negotiations. The Guild has issued a laundry list of demands that include mandatory trigger warnings when discussing news events. So I guess if the news events are, you know, trigger worthy, you have to give trigger warnings. so liberal. This is crazy. They also want to ban scented products in break rooms. They want a 4-day work week. They also want job security for non-citizens who are in the U.S. on work visas in the event there are layoffs. They also want pet maternity, essentially. So the chairman of the New York Times said the Gill's economic demands would result in a cost of over $100 million in compensation and benefits for the company over the course of a proposed 3-year contract. That's a ton of money, $100 million extra, like on top. The Tech Guild members receive an average annual salary of $190,000. That's insane. Plus, that encompasses their salary, bonuses, and restricted stock options. So these people are dumb. They're dumb. They're advocating for foreigners, for illegals, to take to take the jobs of Americans. That's what they're doing. They want that as part of their demands. Additionally, these people, I mean, they just expect the company to fork over hundreds of millions of dollars as if this is like a pizza party. Like, no, you don't get, the company's not going to fork over $100 million. They probably will, because these people are all leftists. The company, the union, they're all leftists. It's kind of interesting to see the left eat their own. This happens when you don't tell people no. People on the left, they grow up with parents, typically, these adults that want pet leave or pet maternity leave. They were never told no as a child. That's why they want the 4-day work week. That's why they want unlimited sick time, which, I mean, can you take off an entire year for sick time? I mean, these people are pathetic. The union's pathetic. And the company is going to be even more pathetic if they actually cave to these outrageous demands. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble. I'm there. It's a daily show, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. I'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Like I said, this New York Times, the left is eating their own. I think it's kind of funny, but throughout the show, I've said I can't comprehend how unions went from, ending child labor in the workforce to allowing workers to take off time to spend some time with their pets, their new pets. But that's the status quo nowadays with unions, and it's unclear how much more pathetic society is going to get until we're totally in shambles. Before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about the Teamsters. They refused to release this endorsement after members picked Trump overwhelmingly in this vote. And they did with Joe Biden as well. I was kind of shocked to hear about that. So Teamsters, they have endorsed every presidential election. So they've endorsed a candidate every presidential election since 1996. In 2020, the union obviously endorsed Joe Biden. This year, they're not going to make an endorsement, which Donald Trump had come out and he was asked about this. And he said, well, that's good. He goes, that's a win considering they always endorse Democrats typically. They do endorse Democrats. They have endorsed Republicans in the past. Teamsters, they endorsed Nixon. They endorsed Reagan. The Teamsters endorsed, like I said, Joe Biden in 2020. But in 2020, Joe Biden of the member vote, he only received 44% of the vote, and Trump received nearly 60% of the vote in 2020, and they still endorsed Joe Biden. They're doing and they're doing the kind of the same thing, but they're not endorsing Kamala Harris. So the real scandal here is not that Kamala Harris lost the union vote, where in this vote they took a vote and the union voted for Trump, but they're still not endorsing him. It's not really that. It's the fact that they voted for Trump, the members did, and the leadership still is refusing to endorse President Donald Trump. And much like the national election where we installed a presidential candidate with no votes, Kamala Harris, the union itself is practicing, I guess they're participating in an undemocratic process themselves, where what's the point of even having them union members vote then? Okay, if you're not going to endorse the candidate that they select through this vote, then what's the point of even conducting a vote at all? Okay, so in 2020, they went to Joe Biden. They endorsed Joe Biden despite the vote going to Donald Trump. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for our show. A few headlines. The Senate Republicans, they said no. The U.S. Senate Republicans said no to the Right to IVF Act. That is Senator Tammy Duckworth's bill. I also explained Amber Thurman's death. Her death was not due to pro-life laws, but rather the abortion pill. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. We'll do it all over again tomorrow. So do appreciate you. Be sure to find me on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble. Subscribe to the channel. Bye-bye. Love you.